Okay, all right, I'm sold. I'm officially sold. I love Atlanta. What the hell was that finish? After all of that, that's how we end it. 3 wide at the line. All right. Again, I mean, first of all, shout out to Harris Lou. All right. I mean, banger. Absolutely love the Good Wrench hoodie. Second of all, what was this race? Okay, you have to understand, we started out this weekend so garbage. Trucks was mediocre, Xfinity was god awful, and we cap off Sunday with what? The greatest Atlanta race maybe ever? I mean, Atlanta saw us complaining about Saturday and said, all right, I'm gonna give you a banger. That was one of the greatest races I've ever seen. From lap 1 was pure chaos, pure entertainment. What a finish. Let's just go to the finish, all right? How about that? Let's just go to the finish. It was a 5-lap shootout after a caution. I think that involved Josh Berry, Carson Hocevar, and Chase Elliott. Led to a 5-lap shootout. You had drivers like Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, who had a great car all day long. Still a lot of drivers in contention, and man, the finish. I mean, Blaney was out in front, Suarez fought back, Kyle Busch was up there in those final 3-4 laps of the race. I mean, Blaney was blocking like a madman. He was blocking every single run that Suarez threw at him, and he did it almost to perfection. Blaney led at the final lap and on the back straightaway. Busch got a great run, goes to the middle, splits the 12 and the 99. Bubba drives it in hard, but then washes up, taking out everyone behind the 3 drivers on back. And look at this beautiful finish. Suarez, Busch, Blaney, 3 wide at the stripe. Too close to call is seen at the beginning. I thought they had tied at first. I thought I just witnessed the closest finish in NASCAR history because I honestly had no clue who won. I knew that the A car didn't win, but I had no idea between the 12 and the 99. And I'm talking about inches. I mean, by 3/1000ths of a second, the second closest finish in the history of the NASCAR Cup Series, Daniel Suarez wins, gets his second career Cup Series win, his first win since Sonoma back in 2022, a much needed win. And again, capping off one incredible, grueling, intense race. Let's take a look at the results. We're going to the results right away. So Daniel Suarez wins, Ryan Blaney in second. Third is Kyle Busch. Fourth, Austin Cindric. Bubba Wallace, he's the only driver, by the way, I might add, to start the first 2 races of the season with top 5 finishes. He finished 5th so far in both races. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 6th, Chastain 7th, McDowell 8th, Chris Buescher 9th, and Ty Gibbs the top 10. Harrison Burton, Martin Truex Jr., Corey LaJoie, Kaz Grala, and Chase Elliott rounds at the top 15. I will say from 13th on back, those are the drivers that were heavily affected being involved in accidents. Ryan Preece, William Byron, Daniel Hemrick, Carson Hocevar, and Justin Haley, the top 20. John Hunter Nemechek, Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, BJ McLeod, Eric Jones, Todd Gillen, Alex Bowman, Joe Logano, Josh Berry, and Tyler Reddick, the top 30. And then the final 7 rows, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Christopher Bell, Zane Smith, Noah Gragson, and Josh Williams. First off, let's talk about with Suarez. Like I said, this was a much needed win for him. There have been a lot of talks in the offseason, just rumblings about Suarez's future. I mean, like I said, he hasn't won since Sonoma of 2022. In 23, didn't make the playoffs, had a really bad year. At least Chastain won a race and made the playoffs. And with Zane Smith coming on board now, even though he's on loan to Spire Motorsports, Shane Van Gisbergen, he's now joining the Trackhouse family. You now got 4 drivers, or really 3 drivers, for 1 spot with that 99 car, since Chastain was for sure going to be part of Trackhouse's future. A lot of people were speculating what's going to happen with Suarez this year. Now he's got to win. He's in the playoffs. Hey, winning helps everything. The reason why I say from 13th or so on back, we're heavily involved in wrecks. I'm pretty sure only 5 cars were not involved in a single accident. The 8, the 12, and I think maybe the 47, I don't know. But there was like only 5 or so drivers that weren't involved in any accidents. It started on lap 2. Stack up on the outside with Todd Gillen, creates a stack up. Austin Dillon goes sideways. Bubba Wallace gets tagged. He goes sideways. 16 cars involved in this accident. I believe this was the biggest pileup in the history of Atlanta. And that was all on lap 2. Again, this race was just It was all over the place, exciting from start to finish. And the thing that I love about Atlanta, and like I said in previous videos when I'm talking about Atlanta, I love being proven wrong. I admit I am wrong. I love Atlanta because this race, you had pack racing, but you still had drivers that were under control. It was aggressive, but it was still controlled. Drivers were making their own moves. Handling mattered. We saw drivers that would just lose it. Chris Buescher or Brad Keselowski. I think also Chase Briscoe. Drivers that just lost their cars in the middle of the corner. Handling mattered. You couldn't just, make moves all willy-nilly. You can only do it if you had the right car. And of course, if you were skillful enough. So the drivers that we saw out in front, they stayed there. Drivers like Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, these were drivers that had, one of the best average running positions and stayed there and finished there. So it really brought back to those days of if you have a good car and you had the talent, you can stay up there and you can finish up there. Again, you still had accidents. That's going to happen with pack racing, but it wasn't to the extent like what we see at Daytona or Talladega where you can be leading the race and just get caught up in the mess, and it's more luck-based. Here at Atlanta, there's still some luck in it, but it's more skill-based than it is if you compare it to the other two tracks. Couple of guys to shout out here. First off, Kyle Larson, he had a very fast car. You don't typically see that from him at drafting tracks, but he had a great car. Fortunately, he got caught up in an accident. Todd Gilliland, he led the most laps. I mean, that front row car, these front row cars, I know it's only drafting tracks, but man, have they showed up this season. Winning the pole, or should I say winning the front row pole at Daytona, McDowell winning the pole today, and even though Todd Gilliland, he didn't get the finish he wanted due to him having to come onto pit road for 2 tires. I don't know what the reason was for, but he had to do that very late in the race, so that took him out of contention, but led the most laps, had a great car. That front row team, who knows? Maybe we could see them up front more consistently as the season goes on. But it really looked as though that from this race, you saw drivers it seemed that drivers were more in control. And it was more chaotic. It just felt more chaotic. You had the Kyle and Kyle show in stage 1 after that lap 2 crash, which Suarez was involved, by the way. They swapped leads back and forth. Again, there was not a lot of sitting back, laying back with what we saw in Daytona in stage 1 or in Xfinity. Drivers, they could make a run, they could create a run, and they took advantage of it. They weren't just pacing, trying to stay in line. They were going at it from the beginning. Drivers that were at the back could make their way up towards the front. I mean, it really, at least in my eyes, brought back to the glory days of the 2000s of super speedway racing, and that was just so much fun to see. A couple of drivers I want to talk about. Joey Logano, 28th place again. Again, he had a fast car, but then he said he got tight. I think he just made a very bad block. Coming to the end of stage number 2, just comes up right in front of Chris Buescher. They both go in the wall. Denny Hamlin runs into the back of him, of the 17 car, I should say. Logano out of the race. But that's 2 weeks in a row that Logano had one of, if not the best car, and doesn't finish the race. Wasn't a surprise to see the Fords, how strong they were. I mean, all Team Penske. And a huge shout out to Austin Cindric. Somebody needs to get him a wheelbarrow so he can hang his nuts on it, because he made this pass in stage 3 near the closing laps of the race, 4 wide on the bottom. One hell of a pass at the start finish line to take the lead. Kyle Busch then followed suit. I mean, you had 3 wide, 4 wide racing, and you didn't see that many crashes. Yes, you saw that lap 2 crash, but a lot of the other crashes were based off of handling issues. You didn't see crashes based off of drivers running into each other. All the other crashes, when Josh Berry, he crashed near the end of the race, I set up that 5-lap shootout with Keselowski and Logano. Those were all drivers that either, had handling issues or, things like that. It wasn't like what we saw in Daytona where it was just being way too aggressive, like, bumping gone wrong or things like that. This was a race in which handling mattered. And that's what I love about it. And man, now, this is one thing I do got to say. As much as I love this, I cannot stress this enough. Let this not be the norm. I'm happy we're going to a traditional mile and a half racetrack next weekend at Vegas. I don't want, okay, maybe, okay, here's the thing. Texas is garbage. So it's like, I wouldn't mind it being like Atlanta, but at the same time, Atlanta's unique because it's the only one out there. My point is that we don't need to see this every week, okay? What we saw in Atlanta was amazing because it is so rare. I'm fully sold on Atlanta. I absolutely loved it, and I thought it was a fantastic race. Scale of 1 to 10, give it a 10. Give it a damn 10. I mean, Dale Jr. was preaching about it last summer, saying this is the hottest ticket to come to see outside of Daytona. And he's right, because I want to see the race now. Whether it's in for the playoffs or for next year, I need to go see Atlanta, because that, again, was one of the best races I've ever watched. Which I never thought I would ever say that when it was first reconfigured. I thought it was going to be one of the worst races. When it got reconfigured, I thought, oh man, they killed Atlanta. But as much as I miss old Atlanta, I sure do love new Atlanta. I know this won't happen because of politics, but I'm just saying, you move Daytona back to July, Atlanta as a regular season finale. Hey, you'd be cooking. You'd be cooking, NASCAR. I'm just saying, I know you will never do this, but moving Atlanta to the season finale, Daytona in July, I'm just saying, I don't want Atlanta in the playoffs. You already got Talladega. We already have enough chaos as it is with the playoffs. You don't need more of that. I'd much rather have Atlanta be the season finale, move Daytona to July, and we're cooking. But yeah, I'm super happy for Suarez to see him finally go back to victory lane and have something good happen for him. Like I said, 23 was just an abysmal year for him, at least to, I think, the standards that we expect him to perform at. If you look at his teammate and how Trackhouse Racing is, we expect him to perform a lot better. And for him to get this win, now he's in the playoffs. Some good momentum, good feeling for that 99 team. So I'm very happy about him. But I still can we look at this finish again? I still can't get over this finish. I mean, 3 wide, absolutely beautiful finish. And to all the people out there of a certain crowd that says, oh, NASCAR's boring, all they do is turn left, there's nothing exciting about that, boring racing. If you think that what we saw was boring, then you're a lost cause, because I don't know how you could look at that race and still come out saying it was boring. Again, I was on the edge of my seat excitement, and my jaw was on the floor in those final 2 laps because I couldn't believe what I was watching. I don't understand, because in this race, they should have wrecked. They had 9 or 10 cautions. There should have been double that the way they were racing. And those, especially those final 50 some odd laps, they were racing like lunatics, but it was fun. It was aggressive, but again, it was aggressive to the point where they could make their own moves. It wasn't aggressive just, because it's the nature of the beast. It was aggressive because they decided to make it aggressive. They could make the moves they wanted to make. If they wanted to go up top, they could. If they wanted to go to the bottom, they could. If they could push, they did. It wasn't, just uncontrolled chaos like what we expect to see at tracks like Daytona and Talladega. Even though last week Daytona was relatively tame for usual standards, but wow, I gotta say, 2 for 2 for NASCAR. Yes, we had a disappointing Daytona 500 finish, and I think because of that, Atlanta said, y'all had a disappointing finish. Don't worry, I'm gonna grant you with one of the closest finishes this time. So, unbelievable race. I loved it. If you didn't love it, well, I can't help you, but I loved it. What are your thoughts on this race? Let me know in the comment section down below. I am so excited for Las Vegas. As much as I love Atlanta, I'm excited to get back to some traditional Mountain Half racing with Atlanta, Phoenix coming up. Yeah, again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Until next time, my name is Jet from MDK. Man, I'm gonna sleep good tonight. Thank y'all for watching.